Good morning, everyone. Today I thought that I would bring you in on one of my morning routines, my morning rituals, and that is that every morning I make green smoothies for myself, my husband, and my mom. And a big part of my green smoothies are the food that I grow in my AeroGarden. It's one of the main ways I use my AeroGarden. I'm Rebecca from StockingMyPantry.com. Now, what I put in my smoothies varies based on what I have growing at the time. Right now, you can see that I have some mustard greens, and I have stevia, and I also have some basil. Now, it might seem kind of weird to put basil into a smoothie, but when I was living in Littleton, Colorado, there's this great ice cream shop there called Inside Scoop, and they make all of their ice cream on the premises, and they experiment with making different flavors. And I remember one day when they had newly opened, I went in and they had a flavor called strawberry basil. And I was like, wow, that sounds kind of weird, but I was intrigued, and so I tried it, and I absolutely loved it. And then in addition to that, I also saw somebody else on YouTube making smoothies with basil in it. And so one day I was like, let me give it a try. And I actually love basil in my smoothies. I also even put cilantro in. Now, for those of you who hate cilantro, that probably sounds horrible. If you like cilantro, you might want to give it a try because you'll be surprised how well it pairs with fruit. So anyway, with the basil, I have Genovese basil and I also have Thai basil, and I'm going to use a little bit of each. So I'm just going to start off by cutting some mustard greens and sticking them in I actually have a Ninja blender, little kind of like a bullet type blender. And I'm going to just do 2 stalks of mustard greens and just kind of cramming them down in there, stuffing them in there. I'm going to put a little bit of stevia to add some sweetness to it, and that will help to balance out some of the bitterness of the mustard greens. I'm going to take some basil, and I'm just going to snip off this stem part. I have put the stems in and they're totally fine. And by the way, how much you cut these up is going to depend on your blender. This blender that I have does real well with stuff that's, you know, not cut up real well. So I'm just going to stick in the basil. That's the Genovese basil. I'm also going to get some of this Thai basil. And you can see I've got some Thai basil there. I'm going to stick that in. Now we'll take a look at what I have in the blender container already. You can see I've got a couple of cups of greens in there. Now to that, I am adding a 6-ounce container of yogurt. If you don't do dairy, you can leave the yogurt out. I'm also going to put milk in, and you do need some type of liquid, obviously, to make a smoothie. But if you don't drink milk, you could use almond milk or that type of thing. But I do dairy, so I'm putting in some yogurt. And I'm going to add in 1 cup of milk. Oops, I made a little bit of a mess on the table here. And then I'm going to put in 3 tablespoons of oats. And the oats really help this be a lot more filling. And I can go several hours without eating afterwards. I'm putting in just a few walnuts. And then I'm going to add in a tablespoon of ground flaxseed. Got a tablespoon of that I'm going to dump in. Okay, if you hear something running in the background, that is actually my AeroGarden's microgreens that I have going, and it's in the water cycle right now. So that's what that noise is. And by the way, I'll go ahead and use that as an opportunity to mention that I vary the greens based on just whatever I have the most of at the moment, or something that I want to cut back. Sometimes I do a mix of them. Today I'm doing mustard greens. Other times I might use microgreens that I've grown in my AeroGarden. Other times I might use kale and or spinach. So I use a wide variety. But the next thing that I'm going to do, and this is actually the final thing, is I have here about a cup of frozen strawberries. And I use whatever fruit that I have on hand. Living here in Southern California, I have a lot of oranges, even just from neighbors who have trees. I have oranges and grapefruit and other things. But sometimes I always keep some frozen berries on hand in case I don't have any fresh fruit. And my blender has a max fill line here. So the amount of berries that I put in, if I can't fit them all, then, I'll stop at the max fill line because I don't want to overdo it. And that's probably about as much as I should do. So roughly a cup. Okay, so now I'm going to put the bottom or top, depending on how you want to look at it, have the blender on and screw it on. And lift up so you can see. And on mine, I use the extract setting, which is kind of an automated setting. So I'm just going to push that now. Okay, so I now have my smoothie all ready to go, one smoothie. And as I mentioned, this is what we have for breakfast every single day. So that's a very practical way that I use my AeroGardens. Is I seldom have to make or seldom have to buy any type of greens for the smoothies because I grow everything in my AeroGarden. And that is a very, very practical way for me to use them and to have a good, healthy breakfast each day. So I hope that you enjoyed this video. If you did, I'd appreciate it if you would like the video. And if you haven't already done so, if you would subscribe to my YouTube channel. Thank you so much, everyone. Have a great day.